How JavaScript works. In this new series, we'll be covering and understanding how JavaScript works under the hood. Understanding how JavaScript works is key to become a good JavaScript developer. And because we need to start somewhere, in this very first video, we'll be having a look at the big picture, and as we go along in this series, we'll narrow down this topic and do our best to cover every weird part in JavaScript. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Let's start by having a look at what is JavaScript in first place. You might already know the answer, but let's have this quick recap. JavaScript is a high-level programming language, and we mean by a high-level programming language that it has a high level of abstraction, which makes it easy to understand and use by humans. JavaScript is a single-threaded language, which means that only one command is being executed at a given time. JavaScript is synchronous and blocking in nature. In other words, the code is executed in the order it appears, and every piece of code must finish executing before moving on to the next one. And to demonstrate this, go to the console on the DevTools, then create an infinite loop that will print first line. Hit Shift plus Enter to move to the next line and console log next line. Now hit Enter to execute the code. Notice that we never reach the execution of the second line, and in most cases the browser will stop responding. But still, asynchronous and non-blocking execution with JavaScript can be somehow achieved too. We'll be looking at that in another separate video. JavaScript is a dynamically typed language, which means that type checking is done during runtime. So programmers don't have to care about the type of their variables while coding. Just a simple var or a let or maybe a const, and they are all done. One more last thing. JavaScript is an interpreted language. Really? Is it? Well, we will figure out by the end of this video. Now the next question would be to know, where does JavaScript run? Back in the time, JavaScript was meant to be a client-side programming language. That means that it runs only inside an internet browser. However, it's not anymore the case these days, as JavaScript can also run on the server side using Node.js. So long story short, JavaScript can run anywhere as long as the appropriate environment to do so is there. And talking about the appropriate environment, we mean the so-called JavaScript engine. So the JavaScript engine, simply put, is a program which executes JavaScript code. It has two main components, the code stack and the heap memory. The code stack, as the name suggests, it stacks all functions that need to be executed. On the other hand, the heap memory is the place where variables are stored. There are plenty of JavaScript engines out there, like the V8 of Google Chrome, and SpiderMonkey for Mozilla, and Chakra for Internet Explorer, just to name a few of them. Now let's move to the most debatable question out there when it comes to JavaScript. Is JavaScript interpreted? To answer this question, let's talk a bit about the concept of interpreters and compilers. The interpreter goes through the source code line by line, translates each line into machine code, and executes it on the fly. This makes the execution slow but easy to debug. The compiler, on the other hand, translates the entire code into an optimized machine code that is ready to be executed, and this makes the execution faster compared to the interpreters. However, debugging can be hard. Now come back to JavaScript. Back in the time, JavaScript used to be interpreted until 2008, when Google released the V8 JavaScript engine by implementing a JIT compiler to make JavaScript execution faster. JIT compilation stands for just-in-time compilation, and it combines the best parts of both interpreters and compilers. Basically, all modern JavaScript engines nowadays implement JIT compilers. So these modern engines take the source code, parse it, and send it to the interpreter. The interpreter then generates bytecode, which is an abstraction of the machine code, and starts executing it right away with no delay. Till now, nothing really fancy. But here is the thing. During runtime, information from previous execution of code is gathered, and as a result, optimization might be required, relying on the collected information to enhance performance and gradually increase the speed of execution. The one responsible of this kind of tasks is the JIT optimizing compiler, which is used only when needed. This is why it's called just-in-time compilation. So the takeaway from what we've learned in the last few minutes is that a programming language and its implementation are two totally separate things. Now let me recall the question. Is JavaScript interpreted? Waiting for your answers in the comment section below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.